Alrighty, good evening, everyone. We're back at it again. Another broadcast of Average Joe Broadcast. I am Shadi Drakeford. We have Kevin Bailey, and we also have Wes Peters on the broadcast tonight. And gentlemen, wow, what a fun weekend of dodgeball! My goodness, we had a,
Absolutely.
we had a lot of crazy things happen. A lot of them.
I would
With
agree.
that, with that being said, we should probably take a look at this Michigan Dodgeball Cup results and get into that segment. Cool. So, Kevin, you're a Michigan guy as well as Wes. How was the atmosphere?
Um, so I guess just strictly in terms of the atmosphere, actually, something weird about that. So when we used to have only four schools there at the MDC, it would be better because everything would be on one court the entire time.
Right?
And when that happens, the other two teams that are sitting out are in the stands, as well as all of their fans, as well as the fans for both of the teams that are actually playing. But at this tournament, on a positive note, we had Western Michigan able to come, so that made it five teams total. And with the five teams, you had two courts going at once, so half of the people in the building were up at court two, while everyone else was at court one. So there was actually less people in the stands than usual. Usually, you get a pretty good amount of people in those stands at IM West. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, shame on Western Michigan for ruining the atmosphere, right?
shame on them.
Well, I mean, it was my first time going to the Michigan Dodgeball Cup. It was a really awesome experience because I know it's like one of the most historic tournaments of pretty much all of the NCDA, with the exception of nationals. It was really just cool just to see you all in person, and I definitely saw like all the teams, giving it their best shot, against each other. So that was exciting to see. Really, really exciting. Really, definitely had some savagery moments though. My goodness.
Yeah, I'm happy that you were able to come to this one, and definitely, like you said, one of the most historic um, tournaments to attend outside of
Mhm.
nationals. So yeah, I think that it's definitely one to check off the bucket list for any college dodgeball fan.
Yeah, just wait till you see the ODC Shadid. Oh, too soon.
Oh, too soon, man. Too soon. As always, I keep on blaming the good folks at JMU for just ruining that for me.
Nah, it's
For
all
the
good.
for those of you who don't know, I had every intention to go to that tournament, but I mean, when someone just flipped the script on you, you gotta make adjustments. So,
Yeah,
It's all good.
it happens.
Let's I didn't mean to get carried off on a tangent there. Let's jump into the exciting match, most exciting match of the day.
oh, you talking about Michigan State versus GB?
Absolutely. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, if we want to just start with that game and then at afterwards we can talk about the total results. That works for me. So, Shadid, I'll let you go first.
All right, cool. So we pretty much had Tony Stompo and Kevin Bailey doing commentary in that particular broadcast. I was doing the video work as well, just with the camera action. And essentially, Michigan State, decided to go into that game with a game plan and say, like, hey, we're going to figure out a way how to beat GV in this game. So they was able to take the first point, and I'm very well. It's already on social media the way how it
Hmm.
happened. For those of you who haven't checked it out, you can go to Facebook or Instagram and just watch the video of Skinner, one of GV best players, had a sense of bad luck go his side. But then GV came back and made an adjustment. And then the second half, both teams were going back and forth. And then they ended up going to overtime, which is the third time that GV went into overtime, twice by Michigan State. Um, it felt a little bit more balanced in OT, and then it felt lopsided like the last time that they played. But GV was still found a way to prevail. So, but it was a really good overtime match, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. So, yeah, that first point was pretty crazy. It was a back and forth point, and I know that Tony and I were, as the point took longer and longer, we were starting to realize how important the point was. So, kind of as an example, if you've got a game that's going to be a 4-3 final score, that's when a point isn't of as much importance, but in that game, that first point took almost 20 minutes. And GV, not to get ahead of myself, but they, in the second point of the first half, they scored that point in 5 minutes. If they wouldn't have done such a great job in that point, it would have gone into halftime 1-0. And we were all thinking, I think there was maybe 7 minutes left when that first point ended. So I was thinking we're going into halftime 1-0 more than likely. So that's just how important that point was, because it looked like MSU had just given themselves a 1-0 lead with 25 minutes left in the entire game.
Jeez.
So yeah, that first point was pretty wild. And obviously the ending of it, which was posted like Shadid said. But then I think it was just interesting to see the difference in not style of play, but just the way that each team was able to earn their points in that game. Grand Valley with 2 very quick points, one at the end of the first half and then one to start the second half. And then on the other end, Michigan State had 2 very long, drawn-out points that they were able to win. And then they almost took another point right before the end of the second half to win the game in regulation. So a lot of comparisons can be drawn between this one and the game that they played 2 weeks earlier at GVSU. In a pretty similar overtime where Grand Valley just took over and won with not much resistance at all. So,
in terms of speaking to that, we actually received our first question of the night from Alice Bonus, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the stream real quick. And his question is, this is the second time GV Michigan State overtime they came up short for the Spartans. What do you think they need to do to avoid a pattern?
Who asked this question?
The founder of Michigan State.
Oh, okay.
Bomas, yeah.
Yeah, Bomas.
So it's a good question. I would say for me, I think first off, it'll help a lot when Michigan State has Jacob Georges. I would argue he's their best all-around player. He was not able to attend. He had like a powerlifting event of some sort that same day. So 1, it would help to have him back. 2, in overtime, Grand Valley has always been so composed, and you really aren't seeing balls over calls against them in overtime. And if you do, they're able to figure it out and be able to get over that hump. Michigan State, they get crippled by a couple small mistakes, and it all just snowballs out of control for them in overtime. And they need to find a way to make that not happen anymore, find a way to be a little bit more resilient in those type of situations. But when it's overtime, it's 6-on-6. Michigan State has their top 6 is very, very talented. It can go either way. It just comes down to execution. So I think if they make just a couple plays to start it and get a little bit of momentum, it could be Michigan State's overtime period to win. Or to lose, excuse me.
Yeah, the thing that I really took away from this particular overtime in comparison to the other overtime match that took place, Michigan State was actually down before they was able to tie up to go into OT. So this was like one of the first times we actually saw Michigan State kind of had to fight back within the game to get back. Because beforehand, I think we had a situation at the second time those two teams played. The game was tied 1-1 at halftime. Then GV just took over. And then the third time they play, which was like last fall in November, again, GV Michigan State tied. Then GV just took over. And so now we're now beginning to see Michigan State put himself in a situation to where um, I think they kind of like learned the lessons. Um, I think they kind of learned the lessons that they did and was able to make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
mean when you're in an overtime match and it's two teams that are that caliber, um, once you get to that overtime period, it could just go either way. It's just, I mean, it's so unpredictable. We've seen overtimes, a team gets a quick out and then it's over like a flash, or we've seen overtimes that can go 10, 15 minutes or something like that. You just never know what's going to happen when you get to overtime. I
yeah,
don't I don't know how you really game plan for that necessarily. It just it's chaotic, unpredictable, and I think that's why NCAA dodgeball, especially overtime, is just the best brand of dodgeball.
yeah, very exciting. But yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. Just anything could happen. Anything could happen. All right, so ooh,
Can't hear Kevin.
yeah, I just saw that, and oh boy. All right,
What did you do?
oh boy. So for those of you who don't know, anytime you're doing a video chat of any kind, you're always going to have some technical difficulties. So we're trying to work through it while we're live. So humbling experience to say the least.
Nope.
Yeah, we still cannot hear you, Kevin.
What did you touch? It was fine.
It was fine. It's oh boy. We'll try not to get too off. We'll try not to get too off track, but this is.
Well, Kevin's the main source of this conversation here because I was not at the MDC.
Oh my Lord Jesus. Okay.
Take 5.
Jesus. Okay. We're really close from going from a 3-person broadcast to a 2-person broadcast.
Yeah, that's why I said be at Hunter Ford in here, man. Oh
Let's
boy,
hope
now we're.
let's hope that is not the case.
Nope, can't hear you.
Oh my Lord Jesus. Oh man. I don't know what to do.
Try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
That's all I can think of right now.
What did you do? I don't understand what he did. It worked completely fine. And
Yeah,
then he touched something, his screen went black for a second, and then it came back and his voice isn't working. Or audio.
all right. So see, my bonus is not amused by the technical difficulties whatsoever. So we hear
We're
you
not
loud.
either, Alex.
We hear you loud and clear, sir. We just unfortunately gonna have to move on. And hopefully Kevin will join us. If not, we're just going to have to do this, Wes.
Gonna
We
be
got
light on the MDC talk then.
all right, fine. All right, so we got Colin. The next question. He was saying when the last time GV lost an overtime match. He says 2017. Honestly, I'm not really for sure the last time they lost an overtime match. In all seriousness.
Hello, Kevin?
Do you guys hear me now?
Wes.
Yes.
You can hear me.
Is his screen frozen? No, it's
Yeah,
not
you're
frozen.
lagging a little, it looks like, but we can hear you.
All right. Well, that's good.
Okay, you can hear him. I can't.
Yeah, okay, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay,
Don't
you
touch
can.
anything.
Oh,
I won't.
great.
I won't.
Okay.
All right.
Unfortunately,
So beyond. Oh, go ahead, Shadid.
unfortunately, I cannot hear Kevin. And
You can't? I could
can't.
hear him a second ago.
And unfortunately, that may be an issue in terms of
Can you
the
hear me now?
audience
Yeah.
might not be able to hear Kevin either. I hope that's
Yikes.
not the case.
Can you not hear him still?
Nope.
Yikes. I can
Big
try it
can hear
again.
him. No, I can hear you.
Okay, I really do not want to go off and then go back in, but I might have to do that. Be right back.
Let me yeah. Let's see if I can hear myself on the
No,
stream.
don't touch
Or if
anything.
someone
Don't touch it.
Someone wants to comment. They can comment and say that they do hear us.
Cool. All right, I can hear you now. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Good.
Good deal.
All right.
Anyway,
Well,
back to business.
Yeah, let's try this again. Yes, Colin, I know you can hear them, but if everyone in the chat cannot hear each other, it makes it very uncomfortable trying to have a conversation with somebody. So everybody have to be on board.
Yep.
Anywho,
Colin,
Bohm has come up with another question saying, what is each team most immediate need prior to April?
and that's for every Michigan school, or are we still talking?
Every
Um,
team. So we might have to get back to that question a little bit later when we talk about the standings. So we'll get to that. Not right
fair
now,
enough.
but we'll get to that a little bit later. Cool. All right.
Okay.
But yeah, so back to business now since all technical difficulties have been resolved. Yeah, the most exciting match with GV versus Michigan State. Michigan State is not too far off from actually beating GV. They just need a few things going their way.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. They're a heartbeat away, right? I mean, one play away in overtime, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, let's if I don't know what happened when I was gone, but let's go through and dive into all those other games at MDC before we move on to the Ohio tournament. Because
Sure.
I know there's probably people wanting to talk about that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if Shadi, do you have the list of all the games in front of you? If not, I can read them
do.
off.
All right, go ahead, Wes.
So do we want to just go round by round at this point?
Yeah,
The
sure.
first round was Michigan State, Saginaw Valley. How'd that one go?
Interesting game. Michigan State, it wasn't as, I don't want to say it wasn't as close as the score indicates, but Michigan State was up 3-1 with just a few minutes to go, and then Saginaw scored to make it 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
But Michigan State showed some weaknesses in that game in terms of communication wasn't always perfect for them, and they weren't executing their strategy as well as they could have. Saginaw, on the other hand, was definitely the less talented team in that game, but they made up for it by having some very good communication. And I remember I was courtside for part of that, trying to get some slow motion footage, and some of the Grand Valley guys that were down there were saying it looks like Saginaw must have been watching film or something because they look completely different from the last time we saw them, which was only 2 weeks ago. So yeah, Saginaw, I think they showed some positive things in that game. Michigan State still won the game 3-2, and it could have been 3-1 or even 4-1. They could have won that final point. So I think it kind of speaks to where both those teams are at right now. Michigan State is definitely the better team, and they're still figuring it out, trying to get more consistent. But they're definitely their floor is definitely raising rapidly, if that makes sense. They're not getting blown out by teams like when they lost to Central 2 weeks earlier. They got rid of that. They made some mistakes, but it didn't cost them a game. It just meant that game was closer than it should have been. And then Saginaw is an improving team that looks a lot better than they did earlier in the year. So
for me, that first game seems kind of like, it was directly before they played for Michigan State, directly before they played Grand Valley. It just kind of sounds and looks on all sides to me like they were just trying to get out of that game without, blowing through as many arms as possible, pretty much.
That's fair.
So I think that probably lended to the closer score. I don't want to take anything away from Saginaw Valley, but,
Yeah, they kind of put in cruise control in the second half a little bit.
Right.
Because they had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would very quickly say that Weekland and Brian Butler, at least within the last point when they was playing against Saginaw, was able to bleed out like 7 to 9 minutes. They almost walk away just not giving up a point. They played very well within that last point. So just want to make a quick reference to that.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Let's jump over and change of pace. How did Western Michigan look throughout the day? Did you guys get any of their footage?
No
matches?
No.
Yeah, unfortunately we did not because we were on that main court.
Oh, that's right.
So
yeah,
it would have been cool to have streams of both games, but the priority
I saw
was
they
that
took
one
a few
court.
points.
So. Yeah, so
yeah.
they took several points throughout the day. They had 2 points against Central Michigan, 1 against Saginaw Valley, and then they scored 1 against Michigan State as well. So that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's improvement.
Yeah.
Peter's got the Broncos going in the right direction here.
And I know he said, while we're on the topic of Western Michigan, Peter did say in the interview with Tony after the tournament was over, he said, as long as they can get enough people, they are definitely going to Viking Cup. So it just comes down to if they have the roster for it, and you have to have at least 8. So fingers crossed that they get at least 8 people to commit to that, and they'll be traveling out of state for the first time in program history.
Yeah, that's big.
So,
I heard they had 12 or 13 people at MDC too, so that's pretty good.
That is good.
Yeah. Saginaw Central, how was that game?
So we're jumping to later in the day, or was this?
Well, the next match would be MSU Grand Valley, but we already discussed it. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Central. Oh yeah. So this was the game. I commentated this one with Dylan Fettig, and I just remember Scott Imbergia was the guy that stood out the most for Central in that game. I think it was tied 1-1 at one point, but don't quote me on that. I might be wrong on that. I know that the first couple points were fairly close. So it wasn't like Saginaw was getting blown out in this game. And Central Michigan was making some mistakes. Some of their better players were making uncharacteristic mistakes a little bit. But overall, Central had better depth, and it showed throughout the game.
That was definitely a very slow-paced game.
That's fair.
All right. What was the final on that one?
Final score was 3-1. CMU won that.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
Next round's Grand Valley Central.
This was actually one of the more intriguing games. Go ahead, Shadid.
Oh, Jared Brown said first half was 3-0.
3-0. Oh yeah, I should have known that. Yeah, so Central looked very good in the first half, and then it got really slow paced, like Shadid mentioned. But yeah, that was when
cruise control.
Yeah, when that happened, they were up 3-0. I think that in the booth we were saying this team looks like they're gonna also beat Michigan State again. And then obviously that didn't happen, but we'll get to that.
Okay. Grand Valley Central.
Yeah.
That was a good game. Let's see. What was the score for that one again?
Didn't Central get up 1-0, or was it tied 1-1? Or
yeah. So the final score was 4-1, but the first half was close, and that score does not indicate how close that game was.
Yeah.
So it was 1-1 at halftime. And I think, and it was 1-1 at halftime, but Central Michigan got Grand Valley down to 2 players right at the end of the half too.
Oh wow!
So, and they had like 10 seconds left. Grand Valley had 2 timeouts, so it went to overtime, or it went to halftime, 1-1. But Central Michigan was the better team in the first half. So, Shadid, any other thoughts on that one?
Nope. That's pretty much it for me.
Second half
they looked. Yeah, Grand Valley looked like a completely different team in the second half. And once the wheels started falling off, it was just Grand Valley was the better team. Central Michigan couldn't keep playing the way that they were.
Mm-hmm.
In the first half, they were catching everything, it felt like. And they were capitalizing anytime GVSU would leave themselves open in the neutral zone and vulnerable to get hit. In the second half, Grand Valley sort of tightened that all up and got three points out of it. So 4-1 final, but CMU looked at halftime of that game, it looked like they could be the winners of MDC if they kept it up. So
Wow.
yeah.
So more of the same from the second half for MSU versus CMU, with CMU not performing well.
Shadid commentated that one. I was doing the camera. I'll let him talk on that one first.
Oh yeah. So let's see the score. What was the score for that one?
4-0 Michigan State.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michigan State definitely saw that as an opportunity to redeem themselves from the previous weekend, the previous 2 weekends ago, and they pretty much just went off against Central Michigan, pretty much just squashing any opportunity for them to make any noise whatsoever. The Chips did the best that they could, but Michigan State was like, not today. So
Yeah, there were a few times in that game where CMU was keeping it close. I know at the end of the first half, there was a opportunity for CMU to stall it out until halftime, and it would have been a 1-0 score at halftime. But Michigan State, to their credit, did a really good job of closing out a point there. And then in the second half, there were times where it was close as well, but Michigan State was always the more resilient team. Michigan State was definitely the team that looked like they wanted to be there more. It looked at times like Central Michigan was just completely deflated. So yeah, MSU deserved to win that game, and that broke the curse for them.
Yeah.
For those that didn't know, it had been since 2005 since Michigan State had a above 500 record at MDC. They went 3-1 this year, so finished in second place, which I know they would have loved to have beat Grand Valley and won the cup, but step in the right direction for them.
Yeah, going toward nationals, it's a big step up, I think. So last match of the day was Grand Valley Saginaw.
I saw a little bit of that game. Grand Valley won that one handily. It was 2-0 in the first half, and Saginaw Valley got GVSU down to one guy, so they almost went into halftime 2-1 score, which probably would have changed the shape of the second half of that game. But Grand Valley ran away with that one, and that one sealed. Well, they actually already had the MDC locked up before that, so it didn't matter had they win or lose in terms of winning the cup, but they kept their undefeated record. So yeah, that's it for the MDC.
Yeah. So final records for Michigan Dodgeball Cup: Grand Valley 4-0, Michigan State 3-1, CMU 2-2, Saginaw 1-3, and Western 0-4.
Yep.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts, Shadid? I know you. Do you want to plug the streaming services there? I know we've got a lot of highlights going up.
Yeah. So currently, I'm working on doing some editing on some of the individual plays that took place at Michigan Dodgeball Cup. Lots of great moments. Really exciting, to kind of put this up. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get the composition of the videos into the stream itself, but into YouTube itself. But give me about at least like 2 or 3 weeks, and we should be fine in that department. But we just made history. First time in NCAA history, streaming on multiple platforms at the same time, and not a single breakage of the stream. It went from start to finish with no interruptions. So I was really happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah. That was good.
All right. We want to dive into the John Better's Bobcat Bonanza here?
All right.
Let's do it.
All right.
And I heard there was a couple great games at this one, so it's a shame.
Yeah, there were several, for sure.
Full stream there, but
yeah. So unfortunately, Marietta wasn't able to attend, so we had to do kind of a hodgepodge B team of, I believe it was Ohio, Miami and BGSU B team players to fill in for them. So Akron, Bowling Green, and West Virginia got forfeit victories and then played B teams for the rounds they were scheduled to. So we were able to go without changing the schedule, thankfully.
I'm sorry, who got forfeit victories?
Akron, Bowling Green, and West Virginia.
Oh. All right.
In place of Marietta because they dropped like 2 days before.
Okay.
But they still ended up playing B teams so that they could actually get a third game.
Okay.
Like the B team hodgepodge isn't a real B team.
Yeah.
So like we couldn't count that as like any form of a match. So anyway.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, we'll start off strong. Ohio versus Miami. I had the honor of reffing that match. It was incredibly intense. Miami with the upset, some say upset victory there. Ohio's ranked higher, so I guess technically it's an upset. Zygmus would want me to say. Yeah, really back and forth game throughout. I think the first point, if I'm not mistaken, Miami came out incredibly strong. Pushed Ohio back, got ball control right away. The first point ended up taking a while. It took probably 10, 12 minutes because Miami likes to play a little bit slow once they have ball control. But they ended up taking it decisively. I think the game went into halftime. You're going to have to forgive me. Tied 1-1, though. Ohio came back very strong in the next point and either took a point or they took the first point out of the second half. I honestly can't remember. It was very close. Honestly, both teams looked good, very good, and made a lot of incredible plays. But if I had to say one thing that stood out to me the most is that in Ohio's gym, the walls are relatively short. They're probably 5-6 feet behind you on the back line. And for my money, Miami is the better wall ball playing team. And I think once Ohio figures out how to deal with that, they'd be more well equipped to play, especially at nationals. Considering, I think it's called the RPAC for OSU. Those are some of the shortest walls I've ever seen. So, but all in all, Miami with the upset victory. Very intense match, like I said. So, West Virginia OSU would be the next one for that round. I didn't get to see that one because I was reffing. I know OSU won decisively. Let's see. I'll jump into the next round, I guess. If you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to jump in.
Nah, I'm good.
Feel like I'm just chilling here talking. All right,
what
whatever.
we want.
That's what happens at a broadcast, dude.
I guess so, dude.
Sorry.
No, I just mean like I feel like I'm sitting here rambling. So
we weren't there.
Ooh,
that's true. That's a good point.
Oh, wait a minute. Bowman's got a really good question. I'm going to share this.
All right, go for it.
All right, it says over. All right, so we got over under on glass door shatter at this year's national tournament.
Technically, didn't it just like fall off in 2014, Kevin? You were there when that happened, right?
I didn't see it happen or anything. I just know that it did happen.
It did happen, yeah.
So I mean, it shattered.
At least one.
It broke. Yeah. There's pieces of glass all over the floor. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so the over under is 0.5. I'd take the over.
I would take under. I'll actually make
under.
a bet with you on that.
No, I'm not putting.
I don't know if I can take the under.
Definitely under for me.
I did ask. I think I asked Jeff I asked Dylan, and I asked if the glass has been reinforced at all since then, and they said no. So, I can talk about my my Bearcats if you want me to. I've got no shortage of things to say about them.
It was only a matter of time.
There it is. I mean, that's where I spent most of my day. Anyway, we played West Virginia first. It was a pretty back and forth matchup. in the first half. OSU or not OSU, West Virginia has this guy. I forget his first name. His last name's Ziegler. He's number 2. I
Oh
think
yeah.
he got a shout out in the preview article from Corey. That kid's sick. He literally is like, he's just this big monster athlete kid, and he will
Who?
dive in front of people that he sees about to get thrown at to make a catch. And he jumped in front of about 5 or 6 times in the first half alone. I think across 3 points, because I think it went into the half 2-1. And
Who is
just like,
this?
forgot his first name, but his last name was Ziegler.
For what
Yeah.
team?
Yeah.
West Virginia.
That
Oh,
guy.
Yeah,
I've heard that he's really good.
that
Yeah,
kid's sick.
yeah,
Okay,
And
that he is
good to hear.
ridiculously
Mhm.
athletic.
Yeah, he might have like some of the best just instincts and catching ability in the entire league, frankly. I was very impressed with him.
Love to hear it.
Yeah. Um, Overall though, that match, it was very tight. It almost went into the half 3-1, but West Virginia was able to hang on. In the second half, it was more of the same. The final score, I think, was 4-2. Um, I will shout out one kid. He'll cry if I don't shout him out. Ryan Engelmann, younger brother for Brandon Engelmann. He literally went home that night after we got home and watched back the streams that we recorded. He's like, I had 14 catches in the 2 matches. So, and I believe it. That kid is insane. And like 2 of them were on the back line. He will literally be up the front line with us without a ball, and he'll just dive for catches. It's nutty. So shout out to him.
Those are the best type of catchers.
Yeah. Nah, he looks for him. He's got a real knack for it. So yeah. West Virginia matchup ended up being 4-2 UC as the final score. They got a point late. But it was a good match overall. We also played Akron, and I think we looked back, and Jacob Weber for Akron, their captain, in the first half, I think out of the 25 minutes, he spent a grand total of about 5 on the court. So, needless to say that it didn't go well for Akron that game.
Okay.
Which is a very big change from the first 2 times we played them this year, because they handily beat us the first 2 matchups. I know the first time it was like 4-1, second time was 5-0, I think.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you pretty much just squashed that noise.
Well, we've come a long way since then.
I see that.
Miami beat BGSU 3-1, I believe. Ohio beat UC 6-0, 5-0, 6-0, one of the 2. Was not a close game. We were dead by that point. Ohio looked much better as the day went on. Oh, I didn't get to see this matchup, but Ohio played OSU, and I think OSU was up 2-1 at the half. But then I do know Ohio came back and won it 4-2, so they made some halftime adjustments. Came back strong. And at the end of the day, OSU played Miami. Miami went up 2-0 at half. And I came in just in time for the end, which was OSU getting a point to tie it up and force overtime, which was pretty intense. Ben Johnson makes some ridiculous catches, though, I will say. I think that kid's a severely underrated player for OSU. And I know he's one of the leaders, but I really don't think he gets enough credit.
Is it really crazy to think of him as an underrated player when he's one of Ohio State's better players?
I don't think it's crazy because everyone mentions Dylan Greer and, their very good rookie class, and deservedly so. But I think Ben Johnson's like the unsung hero of the team as far as veteran leadership goes.
You do know that kid can throw both lefty and righty.
I know, and he came back from a broken arm a couple years ago too.
Yeah.
You gotta love dodgeball a lot to come back from that. But anyway, OSU ends up forcing overtime against Miami. very back and forth overtime. OSU makes some clutch catches down the stretch. Frankly, it seemed like Miami was just out of gas by that point. They played Ohio to begin the day. They played Bowling Green, and then went up, like I said, went up 2-0 at the half against OSU, and then OSU let them come back into it and then won in overtime. So, yeah. Overall,
Yeah, I was able to watch that overtime.
Mm-hmm. I think
Ohio
I
State,
recorded it sideways, but
yeah, it was recorded sideways, so I had to watch it sideways, but it was a good OT.
yeah, it was very back and forth. But yeah, all in all, there were some pretty intense matches that weekend overall between the two tournaments. And I know that
Good
was
to
a
hear.
very power through version of summary of that, but
It's all good.
maybe you guys will have to come do an Ohio tournament for once.
That is in the works.
I will be there for the war though, so I will definitely see some more higher teams.
That's always a good one to go to.
Without question.
So before we move on, Shadi, do you want to give a quick sort of like tease what we have left on the schedule for tonight? What topics we're going to cover?
Yeah, good point. So the remaining topics that we have to cover are the following. We still have the updated standings because it is Tuesday night, so we will discuss that. We will have the OD. We will have the Ohio Dodgeball Cup preview. We'll have the Beast preview, and then we're also going to have the regional cups to end it. So, Bowman, I know you've been asking several times during the stream, when are you going to talk about immediate need for improvement for each team? Well, we're now about to talk about that with the standings update. So, let me go ahead and switch my screen real quick. Or better yet, yeah, I'll do that. About to upload it right now, actually.
Cool. And I just shared it in the NCDA Captains Club saying live standings update and hypothetical bracket because we are going to show the bracket if Nationals bracket play was to happen today. Right now, we'll show you what it would look like after we go through the updated standings slide by slide.
Cool.
So
some of us take, some of these segments or what? Like for the teams.
Well, since you're going to be pushing through each slide, I'll let you announce it. We can go pretty quick through each one.
Okay.
And then there's some analysis at the end of different things. So we'll just go one by one, and I'll let you announce it.
Cool. Sounds good to me. Cool. So screen A for that. Oops. Sorry. There we go. That's better. All right, cool. So now we're about to get this bad boy started. So, all right. So we got the updated standings.
I guess if we go one by one, Wes, you and I can give maybe just a gut reaction if we're surprised they're there, if we think they should be higher, if we think they don't deserve to be that high, anything like that. But we'll make it pretty quick.
Cool. So first team on the list, we got GV, currently ranked number one in the country. Their current rating is 56.004.
Gotcha. I mean, undefeated team, and with Ohio losing this weekend, it kind of makes it more clear that Grand Valley is the team that deserves number one, definitely. So I think it's fair. Also, yeah, never mind. That looks good on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's better to do two cameras instead of three cameras. So, anywho, so second team, yeah, it looks much better now. So second team, we still have Towson from the East. Their rating is 51.562.
So it's a pretty big gap. It's a 4.5 point gap between number one and number two, which is significant for sure. And I'm pretty surprised. I don't want to say I'm surprised they're second, but with their record right now being only 4-3, it's not like they're deserving of second place as much as a team like Ohio is. So that's, I guess, one thing I would say. But I think Towson's going to turn it on this semester and show that they deserve to be up there that high in the rankings.
Mhm.
Yeah, the thing to keep account for the rankings is the accumulation of what you did the years before, and
Yep.
and so that's the reason why they're still currently at number 2 right now. Their first tournament will be at James Madison this upcoming, well, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after that.
Yeah, not to mention they do have wins over some solid teams this year, even though they don't have that many wins yet. But when you have losses to teams like undefeated Grand Valley and at the time undefeated Ohio, those losses against top teams are not going to knock you back in the standings as much as if you had lost to, say, the 15th ranked team in the country. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well.
That is true. That is true. All right, cool. Third team on the list, James Madison. Their current rating is 49.204, which is not too far away from Towson. So kind of a little bit less than 3 points. I would say at this current time, in terms of talent, they probably deserve to be up this high. But in terms of how many games that they play, they don't. But
Yep.
but I will give credit where credit is due. They did travel out to the No Fear Invitational, which is one of two East Coast teams. Well, sorry, several East Coast teams to travel out to that event, and they went through. The last time they played in the East Coast, they did lose to VCU in overtime, which was a great game, by the way. And then I forgot who they play after that, but talent-wise, they deserve to be at number 3. But based off of their current, number of games, not so much. All right, so number 4, we got Ohio, as in Ohio University, and they're currently at 48.903. Less than a point and a half from JMU.
Yeah, that's tough, and we'll show why it is tough when we show the hypothetical bracket here in a couple minutes. But Ohio, with the record that they have so far, I think they deserve to be number 2. But coming back from they had a bad Gonzalez rating to start the year, so they had a lot more work to do to get up to where they're at. And clearly that loss to Miami knocked them back a little bit. So
yeah, it hurt a bit.
Not a lot, but just enough to let those two teams sneak ahead.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Currently at number 5 is Miami University of Ohio with a rating of 48.264 and less than a point. In fact, less than a point away from 4th place. Wes, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, probably 0.65 away from being at where Ohio is ranked number 4. So clearly that win bumped them up significantly in rank. I think they were 6 or 7 coming into this.
Yeah.
I think they deserve to be ranked. Probably, if we're assuming Ohio deserves to be number 2, I'd say the Red Hawks should be number 3 at best, 4 at the worst. Depending on how you feel about Michigan State, I think those teams have performed pretty evenly well, facing different competition. So, both highly deserving. So
I agree.
It seems like we do have a comment from Jake. He said that the Gonzalez system is still sketchy to me. Not gonna lie.
Who comments this?
Jake from Michigan State.
Oh, okay.
It's not a perfect system, but it's the best we've got.
It can use some adjustments. I
Small
can
ones.
I can say that. It depends on what you want to be adjusted, but I guess that'll be another topic for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I will say really quickly, it's incredibly difficult to come up with a ranking system that's fair and accurate for every team when, one, you've got teams who play a lot of matches and you're supposed to rank them with teams who play very few matches. And lastly, not everyone is going to play all the same teams. So it's hard to find a system that gets everything in every team bundled up together neatly.
that's true. All right, cool. So 16, Michigan State University rating is 48.205, which is less than, yeah, less than,
0.25.
yeah, like they're close. They're really, really close. And in comparison to the fourth ranked team, which is Ohio, um, still less than a point away. So,
Mm.
yeah, Kevin, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is they moved up to 6. They were at 7 before, and they can only blame themselves for that, for losing to CMU. But that's in the past now. I think that this is a step in the right direction for them, catching up a little bit, and they have the ability to beat some of the teams ranked ahead of them, definitely, as shown by taking GVSU to overtime 2 times in a row now. So I think that this team will. I don't know if there's many teams that can benefit more than MSU from going out and playing more tournaments before nationals, because
Yeah.
this team is good enough to jump all the way to number 1 or 2 in the standings. Like, it's probably not possible with how many games that they would be able to play between now and the end of the year, but I'd love to see them get a lot of games in and maybe play against teams like Miami, Ohio, JMU, Towson, stuff like that, just to see how they stack up and also to give themselves a shot to jump up in the standings. So,
Yeah.
To make a reference in that, they will be traveling to Bowling Green the day before the West Virginia tournament to play some teams out of state. So I'm very certain that they're going to have a wonderful showing at that particular
yeah.
tournament.
Mm.
All right, number 7, we currently have Central Michigan. Their rating is 46.818. So almost
Understandable that they dropped. They were at 5. They go down to 7. That's what happens. They lost to GVSU and MSU. So
do you feel
that's
like
all I have for them.
do you feel like that they're currently um, overperforming their current ranking or underperforming?
If I were to do a power rankings right now, I would have them at 8. I would have Ohio State
Yeah.
above them, and Ohio State hasn't been listed yet. So yeah, and that's a segue into our next one, which is a team that I would have just below them, and that's number 8 VCU.
Cool. So my automata currently at 44.536. We have Central Michigan just a couple points ahead of them. From an unbiased perspective, respectfully, I would have them just a little bit under this ranking, probably around 9.
Yep.
Just simply on the account that they haven't played anyone outside the East Coast, with the exception of Ohio. So they got to play more games. Do they have talent that would be around the 8 spot? In my personal opinion, yes. But just based off of who you played and also record wise, they got to be at least to number 9. My humble opinion.
Yeah.
I agree.
Speaking of number 9, and probably a team that should be ranked higher, is Ohio State University at 44.371. Wow, this team has been a surprise and a wonderful surprise at that. My goodness.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they're a clear dark horse team at nationals this year. They just upset Miami. It'll be exciting to see as the season progresses and we get into April how far this team can go. So.
Yep. I'm excited to see what they do at the Ohio Dodgeball Cup. it would really be wild if they won the ODC.
Hmm.
And it would be extremely difficult to make the power rankings at the end of this month if that happens. But uh, they're definitely closing the gap here with that top tier. So they deserve to be higher than ninth, in my opinion. And if they play more games, they'll continue to jump up that. So,
Yep. Number 10, we got Maryland, 43.381. Shadid.
And Maryland rankings at 43.381. Personally, I feel like they could be ranked a little bit higher. The problem with them is they have a travel restriction. If a tournament is more than 300 miles away, they can't travel. So they are limited to only East Coast teams. The exception of that is they can travel international. So the best that they can do is beat teams like VCU, JMU, and Towson.
Hmm.
Number 11, Wisconsin Platinum, rating at 43.074.
They haven't played a whole lot of matches. I know it's far for them to travel. I would definitely not quite have them so high. But I think the last tournament they played, they went to Grand Valley, right, Kevin?
yes. Well, I believe that they played in a thing with Nebraska since
Oh,
then.
it's true.
And Nebraska took them to overtime, actually. So
Hmm.
either that looks bad on Wisconsin or it looks good on Nebraska. I'm not sure which, because unfortunately we don't get enough of those teams coming out here to really get a gauge at where all of them are.
Yeah.
But I agree with Wes. I think I'd have them a bit lower, just based on what I saw at GVSU. Mind you, they might have probably not had their full roster.
Hmm.
Cool. Number 12, we got Bowling Green State University, rating at 42.973. Wes, what you got for us?
Didn't get to watch them in person Saturday, but I know they lost to Akron, and who else did they play? Miami. They also lost to Miami, so tough draw for them there. It'll be interesting to see how they do at the ODC. Again, a team that I might have a tad lower, but probably not far.
All right.
Next.
All right, so at number 13, we got Saginaw, rating 41.868. What you got for us, Kevin?
I think Saginaw. That's fair. That's where I would have them, probably around the 13 range, just based on the record that they have this year. As Wes mentioned before, we got cut off. They've played a tough schedule,
Hmm.
especially this semester. So I think that plays a role in this, but they're definitely worthy of being in the top 16. I think that uh, it would be insanity if they don't make the top 16 at nationals, unless they really underperform day one of nationals. But they're towards the bottom end of the top 16, definitely. So that's where I would put them.
Fair enough.
I'm going to go ahead and share this again to the Captain's Club.
Hopefully, we're not
Third
crash
time's
on
a
us.
charm.
Hopefully, we're not crash. All right, 14, we got Akron, 41.624. What you got for us, Wes?
Yeah, hard to determine kind of what Akron really is, because the first semester they looked a lot stronger, a lot more like world beaters. Saturday at the JBBB, didn't look so good. They beat BGSU, but again, BGSU has struggles of their own. Came into the season ranked really high. It's tough to really make a call on what Akron is, if they're going to be top 16 by the end of the year. So
That's fair.
All right. Number 15, Penn State University. Yeah, I'll take this one. So currently, Penn State is really close to not being in the tournament. Unfortunately, they have not played any of their counterparts on the East Coast. I think the only tournament that they may have gone is the Akron tournament, and that was like sometime back in October, I believe. That's pretty much about it for them. Number 16, your team West, rating of
Yes, sir.
41.005. Take it away.
Yeah, creep it into the top 16 here. I'd say pretty fair rank for us at the moment. We had to do some catching up and some digging ourselves out of the hole from last season, starting off at a lower rank. But we got to play some higher ranked teams, and we'll see what this team's truly made of this semester, I think.
Agree. Agree. All right, cool. So number 17, um, University of North Georgia.
Yeah, we'll start going a little more rapid fire here with these
Hmm.
last outside of the top 16. But for North Georgia, I think it's going to be interesting to watch them the rest of the year, see how many tournaments they play. And if they can get to a couple, they can creep back into the top 16. If they do well on day one of nationals, that'll help them a lot too. They're a team to keep an eye on because they definitely have an ability to jump back into that top 16 and make the championship bracket at nationals. So that's one of the more intriguing teams to watch the rest of the year.
Absolutely. Shadid is gone.
Now we're
The
like
stream
lost
crashed.
children.
Looks like it's bedtime, Kevin.
If it crashes again, I'm going to bed. That's what I said.
That is what you said.
He should be able to jump back on here soon, but we can go through the rest of the rankings without the slideshow. Oh no, he's here.
Yeah,
He's here to save us.
blessed.
So that was North Georgia at 17. Welcome back, Shadid.
Yeah, I think we've
So
been
I'll
live
just
the whole time.
run through a couple. Yeah. Gonzaga is number 18. They haven't played any games this year, so their rating hasn't changed at all in a few years. And the same goes for number 19, which is Oregon State. Hopefully we get those two clubs back up and running, playing NCAA matches. But for now, we're gonna ignore those and move on to number 20. We'll see if Shadid pulls up the screen once he has it. But number 20 is Cleveland State University with a rating of 39.855. Wes, I know you've seen them with Cincinnati being in the Ohio region. So go ahead.
Yeah, another team to kind of not sure what to make of them. They looked really strong out of the gate at the beginning of the year. Then forget what tournament. Oh, it was at Akron. They went 0-4. And I think they've won a couple more matches since then. And they'll be hosting their own tournament in lieu of attending the ODC in 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens then.
Yep. Yeah, I think that they're a team that could definitely also jump into the top 16, but they're going to have to play some good teams and get some quality wins because that's what really is going to make you jump. Example of that would be Cincinnati this weekend beating Akron. So it takes wins over teams ranked above you to really get some good jumps up the standings. That's what they're going to need to do. And because of that, I think it's important that they play a lot of tournaments the rest of the year.
Agreed. I think you can say the same about the next team. Number 21,
Yeah.
UK, 39.837. Got to play a lot more matches. I know they haven't been to a whole lot of tournaments so far this year. It's tough to get a gauge on them, but like Kevin said, you got to play teams ranked above you and get quality wins if you want to make the top 16 bracket. So.
Yep. And moving on to the next one, team from the Midway Conference, Nebraska. Most recently, they had a doubleheader with Wisconsin-Platteville where they took them to overtime in the second game. So what that tells me is this team is legit. They're nearing Wisconsin-Platteville's level, and they have a big group there. I don't know how many members they have right now. I think Lesky's in the stream right now. He's watching, so maybe he can comment. But they have a big club there, so I think the future's bright. Another team with a bright future, hopefully, is Western Michigan, and they are the next team at number 23. And they took a dip in the standings, but that's what's going to happen when you're playing a lot of games and not getting wins. But I think that it's still beneficial to them to get that experience. So
Yeah.
it's a learning curve for them. They're not trying to make the top 16 bracket and win nationals this year, but it's all building for the future. So I'm happy with where they're at.
Yeah, fingers crossed they can go to the CSU tournament in a couple weeks.
True. And then moving on to number 24, we have Virginia. We'll let Shadid talk about them for a minute.
Yeah, so Virginia is currently in a tough spot right now. Unfortunately, the teams on the East Coast are just currently better than them right now. When they do have numbers, they're a really good team. But unfortunately, commitment has kind of been an issue for them. Ratings at 36.905, more likely be going towards a consolation bracket. Number 25, West Virginia, rating 36.905. Very exciting team. Like to play fast, like to play with a lot of energy. It's their third year. They're going to have some growing pains. Also be looking at the consolation bracket as well.
A lot of talent on that team. It's going to be exciting to watch them play over the next few years.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Without question.
A lot of talent.
A lot of talent. Number 26, I don't even know how to even say that name. So, Kevin, I'm just going to let you do it.
Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. I don't think they've played a game this year, but don't quote me on that. I know that Eric Zander's been impressed with some of the talent on that team in the past, so fingers crossed that we see them play in some tournaments this winter, because it'd be great to see a little bit more from the Midway Conference.
All right.
Moving on to number 27, Kent State. They've had a lot of losses this year, and they've dropped in the rankings due to that. But I still hold out hope that this team's going to turn it around and be a legitimate team by nationals, where maybe they're not going to make the top 16 bracket, but they're going to be competitive in some matches against higher ranked teams.
Yeah, they had a lot of turnover going into the year, so that's tough.
Yeah. Yep. Number 28, Marietta. They unfortunately didn't make it this weekend to the tournament in Ohio. So, yeah, hopefully we see them in action at some point this semester.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 29. 29. We got Ball State University. Yeah. Cool. 30. The B team of GV.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Enough said. Number 31 in Shula. Unfortunately, I don't really have much on them.
Yeah. Have they played matches this year?
No, sir, they haven't.
I don't think so, but hopefully they get. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the South and if they get some events going on, because I know NSU always makes it out to nationals, so hopefully they get some games before then so they can be eligible, because you have to play a couple games to get eligibility. Next up, DePaul. Best logo in dodgeball right there, if you ask me. But unfortunately, they have had some struggles recruiting as well, so hopefully we see them in action at some point, hopefully this semester as well. So,
yeah, fun team to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next
Undefeated.
up, Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern's a team that should be higher ranked. And I know that they took North Georgia to overtime in the fall. So this is a team that should be higher in the standings. And I think that if they can get more matches in, it's going to help them it'd be awesome to see them come up to some tournament, maybe like the War or something like that. That would be awesome to see. But hopefully we do see them at nationals. 34 is MSU's B team, 35 Central Michigan B team, 36 Ohio B team, and that is the end of our rankings.
All right.
Would love to see more B teams in action, but we can move on to that next slide if you want.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're to the fun part. We're going to go through a couple things, just sort of analyzing the standings and what changes happened. And we'll go through these pretty quick, and then we'll get to that bracket, what it would look like right now. So, yeah, let's go ahead. We'll start with the biggest gains. Wes, you can go ahead because you're familiar with the team on there.
I do know very closely one of the teams on there at least. Yeah, biggest jump of the weekend certainly. The Bearcats of UC, almost 2 full points, gained quite a few from beating Akron. Didn't lose a whole lot by losing to Ohio, and still net gained from beating West Virginia, juxtaposed with the Ohio loss. So the results jumping up quite a bit. Michigan State going 3-1 at the MDC, very good finish for them. Second highest jump. Miami with the upset over Ohio, and losing in overtime to OSU, only lost half as many points as normal. So that's a massive hold, even though they're up 2-0 in that game. So yeah, some big jumps there.
Biggest drops in the standings. We've got 3 different schools that we are highlighting here. Western Michigan, they had an 0-4 weekend, so that's what's going to happen. There was only a handful of teams that played this weekend, so that's if you go 0-4, you're going to be one of those teams. But they didn't have that big of a drop considering that they lost 4 games, so it's not that big of a deal for them. And like I said, they're building for the future, so it's not the biggest concern. Bowling Green, another one that lost to Akron, is big. And when it shows that when you're playing teams in similar skill level to you, if you beat them, you're going to probably jump them in the rankings. If you lose to them, they're going to jump you. So, and then Marietta with their forfeits, since they had to cancel on the tournament, unfortunately, they're also on here. So that'll do it for the biggest losses. And now we're going to go to, this shows all of the changes that happened. So any team that played, we're going to show you how much they gained, how much they lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, it shows Cincinnati at the top. So Grand Valley, they went 4-0 and they didn't gain a whole lot, but yeah, they're so high up in the Gonzalez point system right now that that's going to happen as well. So are we onto the bracket yet? I don't know what our screen is looking like. Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, we can go. Yeah, we can go to the bracket.
Cool. All right. So this is probably what people wanted to see anyway. So if Nationals were to happen today, and we skip day 1 of Nationals because keep in mind, day 1 of Nationals does give you points for bracket play, and it's actually double the points. So it's a very important day of dodgeball.
Yep.
But if we skipped right to bracket play, this is what it would look like. So yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, I really like that 1 versus 16 match. No, I'm just kidding. I think in the first round, the most exciting matchups probably VCU, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I would also like
Maryland
to see,
too.
Yeah, Central against Maryland could be cool. And I should say, keep in mind for everyone watching, we have a change this season that's taking place, and that is the top 16 teams in the Gonzalez standings go into a separate bracket. That's the championship bracket. and then any other team below that will be in a secondary bracket. Um, and that can include B teams as well, but we'll see who attends and who doesn't, and those teams will be able to play it out too. So it's giving a lot of the teams that would have had a first round exit more games to play. It's also giving sort of a target for teams that are middle of the pack to try and reach the goal of making that championship bracket. So I think it's going to be very interesting going down the stretch this season to see how that plays out. It's a very fun storyline to follow. West definitely understands that with his team right now hanging on at number 16. So, yeah, I would say those matches that you mentioned were the two most exciting first round. If you guys want to kind of look into what the second round would possibly be and give your thoughts on that, I have a few that I would choose as interesting matchups.
Assuming that we're just going by chalk, right?
Oh yeah, what I mean, anything that you think could possibly happen. For example, I think Ohio State with the 9 seed upsets VCU at the 8 seed, so I would envision GVSU against Ohio State in that second round.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And
I think Michigan State will play against James Madison, Towson against Central Michigan, Miami versus Ohio, and GV versus OSU. So the matchup I'll probably most excited about would be JMU versus Michigan State. That can go either way, but definitely looks like Michigan State is definitely the stronger team.
Yeah, I think Towson CMU would be interesting as well, though.
Oh yeah,
depends on which CMU team shows up, though.
Yeah, agree.
The team from Saturday or the team from 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, good point. I would say the quarterfinals, historically, we've had some really good games. And if we're talking about what game's going to make it on that featured stream at Nationals, if this were the bracket, it would be really difficult to choose because you have so many good matchups in the second round, potentially. Miami against Ohio would be a great one.
Yeah.
And then the ones you mentioned, Towson against Central, I think just based on entertainment value, you would maybe want to give it to Michigan State, JMU. I think it'd be a really fun game to watch and possibly two clashing styles of play potentially. It's just it would be interesting because we haven't seen that matchup yet this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on to what you think the Final Four would be. How about we all go around and give our guess of what the Final Four is based on this bracket?
Oof.
Sure. I can go first.
I bet.
Go ahead.
Grand Valley, I think, makes it out of the top left region. Miami, Ohio is a tough pick especially because Miami beat Ohio Saturday, but I'll still give the nod to Ohio here. I did pick them to win it all. And on the right side, I'll take Towson and Michigan State.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go similar to that. I think Grand Valley in the top corner there. And then I'm going to go with Miami right now. I just feel like after last weekend, and I think that this Miami team is going to continue to improve. I think if they can force overtime against Ohio, they are the better team in that matchup. So it's all going to come down to how their arms are feeling that day, and if they can preserve their arms, because I know Ohio is a deep team, and maybe that is advantage them. But I'll pick Miami. And then other side of the bracket, I'll take Towson. As tempted as I am to give Central Michigan that type of a boost, I can't do it. I just don't think Central, unless they really do a good job saving their arms on Saturday, I don't know if they have the ability to play deep into the bracket on Sunday with how tired they looked in their final game at MDC. And then I'm going to pick Michigan State as well. I I think that they're a little bit underrated at number 6, and JMU is a little bit overrated at number 3. So I think MSU would be favored in that game. So that'd be my Final Four. And both those games would be interesting. Michigan State against Towson, and then Grand Valley against Miami. GVSU Miami went to overtime already this year. So, Shadid, what do you pick?
Yeah, for the GV portion of the bracket, GV obviously going to the Final Four. For the Ohio bracket, you go either way with Miami or Ohio. Right now, I'm gonna give the nod to Miami. Towson versus Central Michigan. I feel like that game will be a little bit closer than what a lot of people may think. Central Michigan is a good catching team. Towson is a power team, but I still feel like Towson's gonna have the edge. And then not so much of a historical matchup with James Madison versus Michigan State. Fun fact: JMU first Michigan opponent that they did beat was Michigan State, but yeah, a long time ago. But I still feel like Michigan State still has more depth, more talent, and they're gonna win and punch their ticket to the Final Four.
Okay. And then we've kind of already gone through our prediction. I would say if I had to predict right now based on this bracket, I would say Grand Valley against Michigan State in the finals, with GVSU winning. So that would be my prediction. I want to see how Towson does at Beast, because I think people are really undervaluing Towson right now. And if they come out and they dominate everyone at Beast, then we could be back to where we were last year, where they are the clear best team on the East Coast. And I think if people continue to overlook them, they may end up still making it to the title game, maybe winning the championship for a second year in a row. But it just seems crazy that the defending national champions, and when we did our staff picks maybe a month ago, I don't think anyone had them even making the title game, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't played a whole lot of matches, and the last time we saw them, they lost convincingly to Ohio. I think that soured a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, personally, I still feel like the verdict is out. They still have time. They still going to have 3 tournaments this semester. Starting off with the Beast tournament, which is historically have been a stomping ground for a lot of East Coast teams. They want to, make a push towards the second semester, just like how the Michigan Dodgeball Cup is viewed as, that push for that. I feel like that would be, their moment to shine. So I still expect Towson to, to still be the dominant East Coast team and just take care of business. So I feel like that matchup between Michigan State and Towson would be a lot closer than a lot of people think. It would be a rematch of the Final Four matchup that took place last year.
True. So with that, we can move on to that final slide and sort of wrap this up here.
Yeah.
For all our viewers that are with us still, we can take a quick look at the rest of the schedule that we have for the rest of this season. Mm-hmm. So that's on the screen. And there's a lot of dodgeball still to be played. I think that one weekend that everyone's circling on their calendar is February 23rd. You have the Ohio Dodgeball Cup, which over the past couple seasons has turned into one of the most significant regular season tournaments of the year. And with so many contending teams this year, it's going to be exciting again. And then you have Beast as well. You have all those East Coast teams that are going to battle it out. And we haven't really seen all that much of Towson and JMU this year, and we haven't seen them this season, and we haven't seen either of them play since the fall. So it's going to be good to see where each of them are at. And then, of course, the Viking Cup, which is sort of it's a group of the lower ranked teams, I guess you could say, but it will be an interesting tournament because instead of all those teams playing um, and getting beat handily by anyone, it's going to be more of we get to see all of them sorted out between each other and see kind of who's the best team of that group, and how do they sort of rank, and it's going to help us with the power rankings as well. So that'll be a cool tournament. I do wish that CSU and Marietta, who also isn't going to be attending Ohio Dodgeball Cup, I wish they both would have gone to that. But I won't really comment any further on that. I think that it's better for their program to compete for that ODC championship, but they chose to host a tournament instead, and it's good to see that we got a good amount of teams to actually come out to that. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see the results from that tournament for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to go to ODC, definitely hosting your own tournaments.
Yeah.
A good counter proposal to that. Towson Invite, I think, is next. Is that the 29th and the 1st?
Yeah, we'll just run through them. So yeah, the Towson Invite, and there is rumors that we're gonna have some top teams there, potentially GVSU, and then you have the East Coast teams as well. So one thing that I feel like we kind of haven't seen enough of this season is play between two different regions. Seems like we've had so many tournaments with the Michigan teams playing each other, tournaments on the East Coast, and then the Ohio region, especially. There's really almost been no. What was the stat? Does anyone know offhand? I think there's only been like one or two. Ohio?
Yeah, I think it was just Ohio when they went to.
Oh, they went to
some East Coast tournament.
No. Bowling Green went to Michigan State for a tournament. I guess Ohio maybe went to like West Virginia or something for a tournament. I'm not exactly sure.
But I forget where it was. They went to an East Coast tournament.
Okay. So yeah, it's almost none of the Ohio teams though have traveled out of their own state for a tournament, and they're just playing each other. But it's tough to tell where they stand nationally because we aren't getting to see as much of that play between different regions. So
yeah, it looks like we might get Grand Valley, Ohio at this tournament,
which would be awesome. A little bit less exciting now with Ohio losing a game. It would have been cool to get the two undefeateds against each other, but any tournament with Towson, GVSU, Ohio is going to be a good one. JMU, that actually makes the top 4 teams in the standings all at that tournament. So that's one to keep an eye on. Xanderthon, the 5th annual, it looks like, or that might not be annual, but the 5th tournament of that name. It looks like Southern Illinois University Edwardsville is going to be there, so that's good to see. And then Nebraska as well. I really want to see how a Nebraska versus Wisconsin Blatteville game goes, and I'd love to see footage of that game in the winter semester because who knows, maybe Nebraska's turned the corner and they're the better team now. So that's that one. The VCU tournament, Shadid, I don't know if you have any insight on what that.
Yeah, I got insight for that. It's going to be VCU versus Maryland in a doubleheader.
Ooh.
That is all.
Say that again. VCU Maryland.
Yeah, VCU Maryland in a doubleheader.
And I think that's fine. I think that teams need to still, even if it's just a doubleheader between two schools, that's still worth it. Especially if it's two similarly ranked teams like VCU and Maryland, where those are probably going to be good matches. It just seems like teams these days, unless you have a big tournament, you're not going to go to it. Where back in the day, it used to be where teams would travel just to play one game or maybe a doubleheader with someone. So I have no issue with VCU and Maryland playing a doubleheader. I think both teams will benefit from that more than if they had just skipped that weekend at all. So that's good to see. But then that same exact weekend, we have the War, which is turning into a massive tournament once again. So, Wes, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that'll be that and the Towson Invite will be pretty much the first time we get a good look at some inner regional activity going on this semester. Um, amongst top teams anyway. It's not. I don't think there's going to be quite as many teams as there have been historically. And depending how many there actually show up, I know Jacob Weber was saying it might end up just being a Saturday this year. So, depending how many commits we get or they get, we'll see how that one goes.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
It
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah. Because currently I'm thinking about like getting plane tickets for the entire weekend, but if it's only a day tournament, then all right, cool.
Yeah, you should talk to Jacob Weber about that.
Interesting.
It'll still be a good amount of teams from a few different regions, though, so it'll be some really good matchups nonetheless.
Yeah, that's definitely one to still circle on your calendars. And then rounding out the regular season, we have 2 tournaments on the weekend of March 28th, 29th. And that is Bowling Green State Invite and then West Virginia. So at BGSU, that's actually Bowling Green's in a great location when it comes to connecting the Michigan region and then teams from the Ohio region. So I'm really intrigued to see how many schools from Ohio come to that tournament because it looks like Central Michigan, Michigan State, and Grand Valley are all at least interested in attending. So that'll be a really good preview of maybe some matchups at nationals. And then the West Virginia tournament, we are going to get some teams from different regions as well. And if you look at that list, there's a lot of teams interested. You have Kentucky, you have a lot of East Coast teams, and then you have Akron and Cincinnati as well, potentially interested. I know Cincinnati might be looking at both of those.
We're not going to do both, but we're considering
either or.
We're going to do one. We're just not sure which one yet. So
gotcha. Yeah, so I think both of those will be pretty crucial tournaments when it comes to guessing where teams are standing right before nationals. And obviously with the rankings, it's going to be crucial to see if teams can get some big wins that weekend and push themselves up the standings right before nationals. So that is that. And then we have the national championship tournament at Ohio State weekend of April 18th, 19th. It's going to be an exciting tournament. We've got some cool things planned for that one. So everyone's looking forward to that.
Best weekend of the year.
Indeed.
So yeah, I don't know if do you guys have any other topics that you wanted to discuss here?
Nah, I'm good right now. I mean, we'll have plenty to talk about in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, especially after the results of the Bees in the Ohio Dodgeball Cup and the Viking Cup.
Sure.
Yeah, 3 big ones.
Oh yeah.
So, well, thank you to all our viewers. Sorry for the little bit of technical difficulty there in the middle of the stream, but thanks for tuning in. A lot of exciting dodgeball ahead of us. Shadid, I know you're going to be attending the Beast tournament, so that'll be cool to get streams of that. And then with the ODC as well, I know a lot of people are definitely going to be looking to see there's results of that one and if there's any live streams up. So we got some exciting events coming up, and then we'll be back with another podcast in the near future. Is that right, Shadid?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Cool. Well, if that's it for us, then thank you again for tuning in, and we will sign off from here.
All righty.
Later.